This is the sound of Ghost Piano by Triumph Audio. Well, it's not the whole thing, it's just a selection of sounds and presets which I've put together in what I hope is an interesting and pleasing manner. In this video I will give you an overview of Ghost Piano, I will play through some of the presets, and I will put together a piece of music and do a bit of a track breakdown and walkthrough, trying to explain some of my thought processes, my inspiration, which this library did generate, my inspirations for putting this piece of music together. Now, if you're not familiar with Triumph Audio, they produce in their own words sample libraries which are slightly left of centre. They are extremely suitable for horror, as you will hear when I play through some of the presets. However, just to think of them as a horror library is to sell them short, because they have a lot of other super sounds in there. Some off-the-wall percussion, some melodic sounds, some evolving sounds which can be used in all sorts of music. Yes, it does lean into the eerie and the creepy, but it has a lot of melodic content as well, so it is suitable for science fiction genres. Electronic music, of course, brilliant for that, for ambient music. Now, Ghost Piano is a full-blown sample library which Triumph was kind enough to send over to see what I could make of it. And I've done several other videos featuring Triumph Audio libraries. I shall leave a link to those in the description. Now, if you're not sure about this type of sample library and if it will suit the sort of music you produce, check out the first video in the list, because there I explain how you can get free sample libraries and very cheap sample libraries from Triumph Audio. Right, let's get started. This is Triumph Audio's Ghost Piano. It's running in Contact 8. You don't need Contact 8, I think it runs in Contact 5.8, but you do need the full version. It will not run in Contact Player. So the interface consists of several pages. This is the main engine, as it's called, lots of knobs to twiddle. There's also an effects engine with various effects, a rhythm engine for creating rhythms, and an output engine for various output options. There are a lot of knobs, a lot of controls here, but there is a super tutorial on the Triumph Audio website if you want to know more about all these controls and what they do. I'll just keep the main engine in view and let's have a look at the sounds. They are divided into various categories, as you can see. There's tonal and percussion, events and menus, where individual notes play different sounds. There's a drones section, a pads section, a processed section. Some interesting processes have been applied to the samples. There are also loops and pulses. So let's start by looking at the tonal section. There are, I think, over 200 presets. I am not going to go through all of them. If you want to know more about what was done to create the sounds, then there is a video on the Triumph Audio website which shows you some of the methods they use to generate these sounds. Let's just have a listen to some of the presets. So I'm going to call this the original Ghost Piano. It's a piano, pretty much. Obviously a piano, but it has this really sort of strange character. Now, when I heard this, I was actually quite inspired. I shall get a bit more into that when we look at the piece of music which I wrote. Let's have a look at some of the others. There's another nice piano sound, slightly softer. Nice. Here's a plucky sound. You can hear sort of bits of piano, sort of there. A deeper, rounder pluck. So here are some of the percussion sounds. And each note produces a different percussive sound, and you can tune these by pressing the keys lower down on the keyboard. So that's sort of C. So I'm just pressing the same sample key, but the keys on the bottom end of the keyboard change the pitch. So that's very handy if you're trying to tune a particular sound to get it to fit in with your song. So this is in the interestingly named events and menus category. I'm just holding down one note here. So it's just, it's doing its own thing. Really interesting sounds. Try another one. Oh, you can hear something's been dragged across the piano strings here. Absolutely. Oh, just one note here. And again, different notes produce different samples, different loops trigger different samples. And again, different notes. Oh, that was, what was that? And again. That's all. That's all from one note. So lots of variety, weird sort of sounds. Yes, I know it is off the wall, left of centre. It's a nice, heavy, droney sound. It's not in the drones category, but it's a nice sound. Let's have a look at this one. Again, one note. One note. You could build little atmospheres from these. Anyway, let's press on. I'm not going to go through all of the sounds. There's more information about them on the Triumph Audio website, plus lots of demos, so you can get take as long as you like and get a much better feel for the sort of sounds they produce. So definitely geared towards the, shall we say, less mainstream area. So let's just have a quick look at a couple which I think you will be interested in. The pad section. It's an interesting pad. It's a nice pad, nice atmospheric sound. I'm holding down a chord, but it's evolving and changing of its own accord. Just one chord I'm holding down here. So some of these they evolve and they move on their own. That's an interesting build-up. You can hear the strings of the piano there. One more. This is one note. That builds up to a crescendo and then pulses. Right, let's have a look at the sounds I used and the piece of music that I was inspired to write with this. So this is the piece that I eventually came up with. I shall go through the main parts of it. It's not terribly long. It's about 2.5 minutes long. Lots of sounds in the piece. I'll just quickly run through some of the main sounds that I used. So the first sound I was inspired to use was, of course, the piano. It's such an evocative sound. It's a lovely heavy sound. And when I heard this, I was inspired to create some sort of not quite a stab, but a sequence of notes, and I ended up with this. Let me just play this. So that was it. It's just a sequence of notes. Let me show you what I was doing. So this is just a sequence of 5 notes, and these are the notes. So they are part of the whole tone scale. You've heard this hundreds of times in all sorts of movies, not with such a dark instrument, but when someone is drifting off to sleep or going into a fantasy world, then the whole tone scale comes into play. I sort of slightly subvert the whole tone idea because I include the G, so it's not quite a whole tone scale, but it has that sort of effect, if that makes sense. So when I came up with this motif, I thought of the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 score by David Shire. Now this was an absolutely amazing score. He actually used a 12-tone raw serial music which he orchestrated with a fusion band. The result is something really edgy, really modern, a superb score for a crime thriller. I shall leave a link to the main theme in the description. Now, I wasn't trying to copy that in any way, but just it's whole tone stroke serial nature of this little riff put me in mind of that movie. So I already had Trains in mind just after playing this first sequence. The second sound I used was the one which comes in right at the beginning, and it sounds like this. And to me, again, possibly because I had trains on the mind, that suggested a train whistle. It doesn't sound exactly like a train whistle, but that was the association. So I was immediately thinking of trains and train stations and ghost trains and stuff like that. And before we get into the arrangement, I want to highlight another sound, which is this. Which I think sounds a little harpsichord-like. And again, when I heard this sound, I thought of Lurch from the Addams Family playing the harpsichord, which he did in a deserted railway station. Now, you may have to be of a certain age to remember the Addams Family series. It was a comedy series on TV back in the day. So that was me putting these 3 sounds together in some sort of train situation. So I just want to play this little riff because this appears throughout the piece. So that's how it started, but it is developed later on. So there are probably the 3 main sections, and you can see the piano part. I've just doubled it an octave lower. I could have put them on one track, but I didn't. And you can see the harpsichord comes in. It sort of foreshadows the main harpsichord part, which is here. I shall point this out as we play through it. And the piano acts as a sort of transition in many places. Although at this point I actually double the note value, so it has a little bit more of a melodic role to play. So you can see that the train whistle part runs throughout just about the entire length of the piece. There are other sounds running underneath it and other sounds which fade in and out. Let me just play you this one. So again, you can hear the piano influence in the background, but that's a nice smooth paddy type sound. And what else have we got? You'll hear this as I go through the piece. I just want to point out the end. There's more harpsichord riff here. This is the end of the harpsichord riff, which finishes, it doesn't complete, and then we have the piano riff again. Now I've only used a couple of effects on this arrangement. A couple of the sounds I've used the stereo widener just to widen the sound, and at the very end I have applied a shimmer reverb to the very last note, and you'll hear that. And apart from that, the presets are exactly what comes out of the box. In the final arrangement, I did add a little bit of mastering, EQ and compression just to glue the whole thing together. So I'll play through this now from the beginning, no more talking, but I shall use the mouse pointer to just direct you to the different parts as they are about to come in, so you can hear what they are doing in the context of the piece. Now I'm just jumping in here before the playthrough. When I put that previous section together, my intention was to give you a blow-by-blow account of all the sounds and all the parts I created, but as you will have seen, there were a lot, and I thought, how useful is this actually going to be? Now, I love track walkthroughs, but I particularly love them when the composer explains how and why they were inspired to create certain pieces and certain parts in certain ways. So that's what I have tried to do in the previous section. Explain how seemingly disparate elements came together to create the inspiration for the track. Let's have a listen. there you go. I hope you found it interesting, entertaining, and possibly just a little bit inspirational. If you like these sort of sounds, then do check out the other videos and libraries in the description. Let me know what you think. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you like stuff like this, then you might like to consider subscribing to the channel, ringing the bell. Thank you. I haven't done that for ages. And clicking the big thumb, that would be a massive help. So thank you very much again. I will see you in the next video.